I'm very grateful for my experience as a nurse because that really guided me to health. Like my goal was health. And
Mm-hmm.
because of my experience as a nurse and what I was seeing when I was seeing ill health and why they were ill, I couldn't really accept that the everything in moderation or that, or you need to eat this ultra processed foods. I couldn't accept that narrative in myself. It just didn't sit right because I didn't see them as food. I didn't want to put
Mm-hmm.
these things in my body. They are damaging, and I don't think I have to pretend they're not to, heal myself.
Today, I am super excited to introduce to you my special guest, Lucy. Lucy is a nurse in the UK who is sharing her personal recovery story using the carnivore diet. She is passionate about advocating for fixing our health with real food. Without further ado, here's Lucy. Lucy, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, it is my pleasure. I would love if you could share where are you in the world? What brought you to being on this podcast? Tell us about your personal journey, and then we'll get into more of the nitty-gritty of the questions.
I'm Lucy. I'm a nurse. I'm an adult nurse from the UK. I have just started this account on Instagram under the name That Carnivore Nurse. So I am that carnivore nurse. I only eat animal products. If you've not heard of the carnivore diet, it's where you don't eat any plant material, you don't eat any processed foods, and you just focus your diet on very nutritious animal products. Anything really that comes from an animal, can be dairy. And how I got this way is a bit of a journey. It happened with my nursing career. I had kind of two things. I had my nursing career, and then I had my personal experience with disordered eating. And they both kind of came together to lead me to carnivore. So I'll get into that a wee bit. From my personal experience with food, I've always been like a foodie. I've always had this like draw to food, maybe more so than some other people, or not. I mean, we all love food. It does bring us all together. But I was very motivated by food. I remember as a kid, I would go out, like, if I was gonna get dragged out on like a family outing, in my head I'm like, oh, but I'll get an ice cream. I was very food motivated, so maybe that made me
Mm-hmm.
slightly more vulnerable to what ended up happening. I went to uni when I was 17 and very young, and I had that very classic uni experience, eating lots of rubbish, drinking loads of alcohol, and I kind of fell down that bad lifestyle of looking after myself, and I ended up gaining a small amount of weight, but probably very minor at the time. But in my head, it was like, oh my gosh, it scared me, it freaked me out. I was insecure, very scared of what people thought of me, and I had a lot of judgment on myself. And it led me to a very restrictive period of eating. I thought the answers to all my problems were in becoming thinner, really. And I went down that path and I lost a lot of weight. It was very consuming for anyone that's gone through restrictive eating, which I'm sure maybe a lot of people listening to this podcast have. What it feels like, and it's very consuming. So I went down that path and I lost a lot of weight doing it. That period was probably only about 6 months. It was intense, and I lost a lot of weight, and I kind of got what I wanted, but it left me very unhappy and miserable, and in a bad way, physically and mentally. So I realized, wow, like something needs to change. This isn't sustainable. I'm not serving myself at all by doing this. But that was a hard thing to admit too. So through that, it kind of left me in this position: where do I go? Like, how do I feed myself? What's the best option? Because food is so difficult because you have to approach it every day and you have to choose something to eat. So it left me that, what do I do? I originally focused on the whole foods base. I knew I needed to eat real foods. But that originally took me down the fruits and vegetables. I was vegetarian at the time. That was kind of like another way to restrict. It's just so easy to just, avoid food. If I'm a vegetarian, you can just,
Yeah.
that's a very easy way to do it. I did also have that, that moral feeling that I needed to avoid animals, and you're told that a lot. It's very pushed in like the vegan culture. So yes, I started eating lots more whole foods, lots of vegetables, and I felt better because I was eating more naturally. My breakfast used to be porridge with an apple in it, and I would have that and I would be so tired afterwards. An hour later I could be asleep, and I was like, this is strange. I was like 20 at the time. I meant to be full of energy. Why do I want to fall asleep after my breakfast? So I realized what was happening to me was I was going through sugar crashes from the porridge and from the apple. My blood sugar would go up high. I'd get that energy in like an hour, and then it would dip. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that was happening. So, oh, this is strange. I don't want that. I need to be full of energy. So though that led me to learning about ketogenic diets
Hmm.
and focusing on fat as your main source of energy over sugar to help keep your energy stable and protect your stable blood sugar levels. So on a personal level, that's what brought me to ketogenic diets, which carnivore is a form of ketogenic diet. It's a high fat, low carb diet. But then I also, of course, I was studying as a nurse during all of this, and I was seeing a lot of chronic disease. I was seeing people with diabetes, with dementia, with cancers, all of these diseases, and I was very confused about what, like, it was very fascinating to me why they were ill in the first place, and why no one was getting better. The approach is very collect all the symptoms and then find the medications to sort those symptoms out, and then kind of manage them that way and send them on their way. But I really wanted to know, why are they ill? Like, what actually happened for this to manifest in the first place? Because the symptoms isn't the real problem. The real problem is the disease itself. And that led me down the diet route too. I was realizing that the illnesses were they're a response to an environmental trigger, which I think is hugely to do with our diets and what we're deciding to put into our bodies. Mostly ultra processed foods and very, very high sugar diets and seed oils. And that I was very fascinated. It brought me to ketogenic diets in that way, especially with diabetes, because diabetes it's a very great example, because the whole condition is there's too much sugar in your blood. So the very obvious solution is stop having sugar. But that
Hmm.
was never the route. The route was, eat what you want, just here's your insulin to cover it. And then it just never made sense to me. So I became
Right.
fascinated. Um, and then I ended up writing my dissertation for uni on low carbohydrate diets and type 2 diabetes. And doing research for that, that's what brought me to carnivore. And at that time, I was still pretty ketogenic, but very high on the vegetables, because I thought vegetables were essential. I thought I needed them. I wasn't even a big fan, but I thought I had to eat the fiber for health. But during the research for my dissertation, I stumbled upon Dr. Paul Mason, and he was talking about carnivore. And I was like, whoa, that's insane. How could you just eat meat? You need your vegetables. You need to, you have to eat your vegetables. Like, it blew my
Hmm.
mind. But I listened to him. I opened up my mind to it, and it just made so much sense to me. He does an amazing video talking about fiber, so I'd recommend anyone to go watch that, because the way he explains things is very good, and he just totally debunked fiber to me. And from that, I was like, well, no problem. I'll just try carnivore, because at the time I was still addicted to ultra processed foods. I wasn't able to remove ultra processed foods from my diet, even though I wanted to. I really didn't like them. I was finding myself many occasions binging on these foods. It was a compulsion. It was something that I couldn't control, my intake of ultra processed foods, even though I wanted to. I felt so compulsed to eat them. It was horrible, horrible feeling, and I would overeat them. I would, to that point of one, you've had enough. You're like kind of screaming at your body, please don't eat anymore. Yet you still eat more, and
Hmm.
it's a really horrible place to find yourself in. I'll get into that later, why I think that happened to me. And so I had this going on. So I was still very much searching for answers in my diet to help me, because I knew that wasn't normal. I knew it wasn't sustainable, and I knew it was very damaging to me physically and mentally. It was just a horrible mindset to find yourself in, because you're constantly thinking about these foods. They're always kind of like there at the back of your mind. They kind of plant a little home there, and you're thinking about which ones you want to eat next and when you can eat them, and you kind of start planning your life around them, and it affects like the way you're going to eat the rest of your good healthy foods. So I could see it going on, but I felt very out of control. So, I came to carnivore with that last, like, is this can this help me? Like, is this going to help me? Maybe this is what I need. Because it did feel kind of extreme, and you think like that's quite restrictive. But I just went with an open mind, because I was kind of desperate, in a way. I feel like a lot of people come to these sort of decisions out of desperation for something to work. So I
Yeah.
just tried it. It was 30 days in my head. I was like, what, whatever, if it doesn't work, fine. At least I tried it. And I'm so glad I tried it, because nothing to this day has been more effective for me than eating carnivore and eliminating all of the carbohydrates and using every single space in my stomach to just eat highly nutritious, high in fat, high in protein animal foods. I realized that, like, it's a path that works for me, and I think it could help other people. I made my Instagram one reason because obviously avoiding ultra processed foods and just spreading any sort of awareness on diet, I think is very necessary for healthcare and what I'm seeing as a nurse. But then from that personal journey of just showing people an idea, a path, an option for them to explore. So
That's wonderful. Thank you much. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. One thing that comes to mind is it sounds like this has been kind of like a relatively recent journey and like you've kind of self-healed. Like you've kind of been able to escape the trauma of working with practitioners who have led you down different roads. Like you were able to pretty quickly come to the carnivore diet and then find that that works for you. Many people who have struggled with food addiction or eating disorders go to a therapist and a registered dietitian and other people who tell them you need to eat this, you need to do that. It doesn't work for them. And then it's like this long, frustrating journey. And then finally
mm-hmm.
they find something. No registered dietitian that I know, maybe one, would suggest a carnivore diet. So,
Yeah.
I think that the amazing thing is that you kind of took it into your own hands. And maybe that's how this sort of resolved itself so quickly is instead of listening to someone else and the registered dietitian would be like, okay, you need to eat this fistful of rice and then you need to,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're consuming your ice cream and these different ultra processed foods
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to be restrictive,
Yeah.
and this sort of thing. But instead, you just did your own thing and then you found carnivore and now you're feeling miraculously better. And that's
Mm-hmm. And
wonderful.
I'm very grateful for my experience as a nurse because that really guided me to health. Like my goal was health. And
Mm-hmm.
because of my experience as a nurse and what I was seeing when I was seeing ill health and why they were ill, I couldn't really accept that the everything in moderation or that, or you need to eat this ultra processed foods. I couldn't accept that narrative in myself. It just didn't sit right because I didn't see them as food. I didn't want to put
Mm-hmm.
these things in my body. They are damaging, and I don't think I have to pretend they're not to, heal myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also part of my character. I'm quite self-determined person, which is my biggest fault and my biggest strength.
Mm.
I was gonna do it. I was gonna figure it out. No one could tell me. And that's just my character. I've come to learn.
And so now, do you eat 2 meals a day? Do you eat 1 meal a day, 3 meals? I'm just curious, kind of like what's a typical day in your life at the
Yeah.
moment?
When I started Carnivore, this is why I think Carnivore was so amazing for me. Felt like I didn't know how much I needed to eat. A lot of my previous views around food was so controlled, and I was always trying to minimize or like control how much I was going to eat, even if
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it. A lot of it was unconscious. You're so conditioned. If you go through an eating disorder, you don't realize how much unconditioning you have to do. I couldn't let go of certain things. I felt like I had to have small portions and not eat all the time. And but coming to Carnivore, it was so liberating because it was so easy of like what I knew exactly what I needed to do. What I told myself when I started was to eat fatty meat and eggs and butter whenever I'm hungry until I'm full. That was my task. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why I think carnivore is so amazing for eating disorders, because you now know what to do. That's your task. Anything else that's going to come off this path is most likely your eating disorder trying to pull you back and keep you ill and keep you with it, because that's what it's going to do. And I needed something so clear to stick to, because I was so lost in my own mind. Like I couldn't figure out what was me and what was my eating disorder, and like my
Mm-hmm.
false wants and desires that my eating disorder was trying to tell me and control me with.
Yeah, it can be
So coming
confusing.
to something that was in a way strict, like carnivore, you could call it strict if you want, but I just call it very clear, but so freeing at the same time. It's quite a strange thing to describe, because it was in a way I was free because I knew what I could and couldn't do. So I just had
Right.
to live through that. So at the start, I was eating maybe 3 meals a day, but also snacks. But these were huge meals.
Mm-hmm.
I would eat like 8 eggs and like 200 grams of beef, and then be full for a bit. And then suddenly an hour later, I'd be like, I'm hungry. So I would just go
Hmm.
eat again because
Yeah.
that was kind of my that was the rule. Like that was
Right.
how I was going to live. And I really needed that. At the moment, I've recently quit coffee, though I was just going to do a 30-day challenge to see what it was like because I still included coffee in my diet, but it's technically plant. Some carnivores are going to be very like carnivore purists, can't drink coffee, but I kept coffee in because there's an enjoyment to it, and that's absolutely fine. But I wanted to just experience what it was like without coffee, and I noticed I was so much hungrier because it's an appetite suppressant, and
Hmm.
for a lot of people in the eating disorder, headspaces, coffee could be, a kind of so-so area.
Right.
I've definitely had very bad relationships with coffee in the past.
Yeah.
So experimenting with no coffee led me to, and this was this month, I've been carnivore for nearly a year. It led me to realize I was still hungrier than I thought. I went to like there's something called priming in the carnivore world, which I'd like to bring up for some people here.
Yeah.
Because if you decide to start carnivore, you're going to if you're coming from any sort of like ultra processed food background or like a restriction background, you're probably extremely hungry, but you don't even realize it because for so long, for me, I like suppressed my hunger. I didn't want to know my hunger because it was bad. That was the whole,
Mhm.
that was like what you were trying to avoid. But carnivore's going to open it up because you're going to give your body a taste of the foods that it's been craving for so long, the nutrition, the protein, the fat, and it's going to open up your hunger. And that can be very daunting, but there's something called priming where you stick to 3 meals a day for 2 weeks, and then you can move down to 3 weeks to, sorry, 2 meals a day for the next 2 weeks. It's like a month's thing that you can commit to. If you want a plan, some people like having a protocol, like
Right.
something to follow. You have to, you kind of like see it like it's your job to eat these meals, whether you want to or not. It's your job to eat these meals. And it can leave you in this new position where you're just eating so much, giving yourself so much nutrition. And like I've just gone through it and I didn't realize how much I needed to do that. And that was a year in. So yeah, just to put that out there, that priming is very interesting. So at the moment I'm eating, sorry, back to your question. I'm eating 2 meals a day.
And you're eating, are you still just eating meat like steak and eggs and butter, or do you eat
Yeah.
like all sorts of animal products like
I'm open to eating
turkey?
anything, like any animal products, but
Hmm.
I've kind of just settled with beef, eggs, and butter, just my favorites.
Hmm.
That's what I love.
Hmm.
I don't eat a lot of steak because it's really expensive. I'm a
Okay.
budget carnivore. So I eat a lot of beef mince and eggs
That's
and
ground
butter.
beef. We
Yeah,
call it
ground beef.
ground beef.
Yeah,
Okay.
ground beef.
Hmm.
20% fat
Hmm.
ground beef.
Hmm. That sounds absolutely delicious. I
It's
eat.
delicious. I fry the eggs, loads of butter, and then
Uh-huh.
put the eggs and then serve the beef on top.
Okay.
And with the soft yolks, it's really good. If you
That
follow me on
sounds
Instagram, you'll see a picture of it every twice a day, every day. I try to post all my meals
on your
so
story.
people can on my story because
Okay.
I feel like the consistency is quite good for people to see. Like it's
Yeah.
possible that
Yeah.
you can do this every day and you can do it every day and enjoy it and love it.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, I eat a lot of ground beef and eggs as well. And people have asked like, don't you get tired of that? And I'm like, hell no. Like, have you ever
mm-mm.
eaten ground beef and eggs? Like that
It's
shit
so
is bomb.
nice.
It's
Yeah.
great. It sounds like getting in this nutrition is like the heart of what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
back to regulating your hunger, regulating your hormones, getting this
Hmm.
nutrition so your brain can function better. Do you do a lot of meal prepping? Do you cook it on the spot? Like, how can someone be prepared to have this food on hand if that's the thing that they really need to do?
Yeah, meal prep absolutely key. Because I work as a nurse, obviously, I'm doing 12-hour shifts. So you think how much food you're going to eat in 12 hours. Like I need to meal prep. I've gone through phases of what I do. At the moment, I would just cook ground beef and then I fry eggs and then do it sunny side down. So all the part of it's cooked and then just put that in a container and just take that to work. My food at work is not like my favorite meals. It's not very like it still tastes good. It's what I
Hmm.
want in the given the circumstances.
Hmm.
It's not always going to be the best and the best tasting thing, but I'm absolutely fine with that. I know
Hmm.
it's what I want. I know it's what's going to make me feel my best, and keep me right, and that's fine. But there's loads you can do with meal prep. Soft boiled eggs or boiled eggs, you can just boil them up, take as many as you want. If you can afford steak, bring cold steak to work. I mean, that would be my dream. Maybe one day. But you can figure it out. There are ways to make it work. I've done it. I do 12-hour shifts and I still manage it. So if I can do it, you can definitely do it. And things like
Mm-hmm.
cheese, if you decide to eat dairy, which you absolutely can. I don't eat too much dairy. I find it can be slightly addictive. Um, and
Yes.
I can overeat dairy, I have
Mm-hmm.
learnt.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing with carnivore. I forgot to mention that it's really, really hard to overeat beef and eggs because it's so satiating. It's
Mm-hmm.
so filling that when you've had enough, your body is suddenly going to taste a bit bad. You may even feel a bit queasy if you're trying to learn what it feels like to be really full of real food, and you will not want any more. It's like, oh my god, you could a thought of one more bite is like no, and then suddenly you realize your meal's over, and now you can go out and play. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just done. And I'd never found that with any other food until trying carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Ending a meal felt like, okay, am I full, am I not full, like my plate's gone. But it was confusion. And of course, like ultra processed food, like that doesn't ever exist. I never
No,
found that.
yeah, you will
um
always get your skewed hunger, and you're just gonna
Absolutely.
keep eating and eating and eating. Yeah, it's completely skewed signals when it comes to ultra processed foods.
Yeah, and which is why I'm a huge advocate for carnivore if people are trying to heal eating disorder, because the clearness of the food that it will tell you, it will work through your body will actually understand it and let you know what it needs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing
Like the
feeling
hunger and
if you haven't
fullness.
had that. The hunger and the fullness signals.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's really amazing.
I'm curious, when you were talking about your personal journey earlier, you mentioned something like ultra processed foods and why you were feeling, why you would stuff yourself, or there was something that you
Mm.
mentioned about that, and you
Yeah,
said that you would
why I
talk
think that
about it.
happened.
I'm
Why,
curious.
yeah, like I've been since finding carnivore, I realized from my history of just restricting nutrition, I was so hungry. So if you pair a really hungry person with
Mm-hmm.
ultra processed foods, which are designed to be addictive, they're
Mm-hmm.
designed to be overeaten, they're made in a lab to hit that bliss point, to make your
Mm-hmm.
dopamine shoot through the sky, and love it. And then you pair that with a hungry person, it's just a recipe for disaster. And this
Mm-hmm.
is why, a lot of binge eating behaviors probably started with restrictive behaviors, and they broke down their bodies, and they didn't fuel themselves correctly, and they left themselves very vulnerable to the grasps of ultra processed food and binge eating, because their body is just searching for nutrition, and then you stumble upon these sort of foods, and I mean, good luck. It's like
Yeah.
it's awful. And that's why I wonder, I don't know, I'm not gonna have like expectation of where carnivore will lead me, but once I feel that void of hunger, which I'm still working on, and I build up my body again and get to that point where my hormones are happy and I feel more satiated, which I definitely do, but I still feel like I'm still on the path. It's always going to be a journey. I wonder, could I eat these foods again? Like, I mean, the everything in moderation thing, I don't agree with, but like maybe I can find a bit of more control over them. At the moment, I don't think I can, and that's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fine. Maybe I never will. Maybe I can, but we'll find out. I think what I'm trying to say is that carnivore can be used as like a protocol. Like it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to be never enjoy any of these foods ever again. But like I don't want to do that, and that like you don't have to. You could come to carnivore in a with a temporary mindset, which is absolutely fine. Try it for a month, try it for 3 months, and see what happens. It doesn't mean you're going to be carnivore for the rest of your life, and this is what your path, and you've chosen it. Now you have to stick with it forever. Try it. It may not work, but it may work. And that's just why I would want to encourage people to do, because it's helped me so much. But people don't really know about it for
Right.
multiple reasons. It's not really spoken about, and it's
Right.
very shocking for a lot of people. So
And that's why I appreciate you coming on here because I know that you have you're being outspoken about your journey that's linked carnivore and eating disorder recovery and
Mm-hmm.
food addiction recovery, which is
Mm-hmm.
a really unique perspective that I think is worth sharing because there might be
Yeah.
other people that also can be helped by trying a diet which is essentially cutting out, nourishing yourself with protein and fat and
Mm-hmm.
then cutting out the rest, which is oftentimes in the standard American diet, it's a bunch of shit anyway,
Yep.
and seeing how that might help reset someone. And as you
Mm-hmm.
pointed out appropriately, maybe after a reset, maybe there is the opportunity to start incorporating some more diversity of food into their diet, not
Yeah,
necessarily
absolutely.
ultra processed food. I don't think that's what we're talking about, but
Yeah,
maybe,
I would still
I
strive
mean,
for health.
yeah, like
So
maybe are you talking about, I'm just curious your perspective. Are you thinking you're contemplating maybe one day incorporating more fruits and vegetables, or are you incorporating like thinking about incorporating ultra processed foods in your diet one day?
how I kind of see it is I don't think I would ever like plan to eat these foods as such. Like I don't think, if I kind of keep your plan and your conscious decision making for, like day-to-day life
Yeah,
as carnivore, I think maybe as time goes on, I could be more open to letting life happen a bit more. Like, like in back in the day, in the seasons, we would have stumbled upon a fruit tree and we would have eaten the fruit and like absolutely fine. So maybe, my life will take me, I'll stumble upon a few fruit trees and I'll enjoy that. And that's,
I
cool.
love that.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want it to feel like you're now like tied down to something either, because I think healing also comes in, well, there's that acceptance and then moving on and growing phase, and I feel like that's going to be part of it, or maybe not. I mean, I'm just kind of guessing at this point, but I just wonder, you know
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it sounds to
wonder.
me kind of like not necessarily thinking of like incorporating specific foods one day or wanting to incorporate specific foods, but just kind of maybe being like, right now you are 100% carnivore.
Yeah,
But like maybe one day, what if it's 90% of your diet?
yeah, exactly. I think
Or something,
I could never see a world where I'm going to be like not eating meat and eggs is like my massive portion of my diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know. And I'm saying this because I don't want people to set themselves up with this massive expectation that they have to now be the perfect carnivore,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
there. Like you could put a lot of pressure on yourself, and that could just stress you out. And the intention here is always to just heal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't matter like what you decide to do to like get to that point, but your own like desire to be super super pure in a carnivore diet could actually be halting your progression to healing.
I think I love what you're getting at. And it's like it's not necessarily like carnivore is the thing. It's like it's
It's a
like a
tool.
perspective.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's a
a
tool
really
to mean to the ends of like having peace. And so
hmm
like what is
and I kind of see
recovery?
it like that, but then I also do see that it could absolutely be something you could stick to for the rest of your life, and maybe I'll do that
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah,
Because even from a non-eating disorder point of view, from like from what I've seen as a nurse, is when my nurse hat comes in. Carnivore is healing people's
right.
diabetes. It's making people go from morbidly obese to a healthy weight. People have been using it to cure cancers or put cancers into remission. It's actually carnivore is so much bigger than eating disorders, which is another aspect of like maybe I'll stay carnivore. Like the
Mm-hmm.
reason I've come to realize, like the reasons I went carnivore to start with are maybe not the same reasons of why I continue to be carnivore now. Like
Mm-hmm.
you do progress in that. But we'll just see. I don't know. I'm trying to be really open and honest with my account of carnivore, because
Mm-hmm.
I'd be really, because I just wouldn't want to think that like you have to be perfect to do it, or you have to like stick to it perfectly to do it, because if it's that feel that may like stop you from doing it, because you're not gonna be able to be 100% carnivore, and you don't want to like put that pressure on yourself.
Right. And I think the openness and the curiosity and the being able to be adaptable, being open to change is a characteristic of
Hmm.
someone being able to achieve their own long-lasting and sustainable recovery. Because if
Yeah.
someone is like grasping like shit to something that they found or that someone told them and not being able to change, even if something changes, like what if all of a sudden something happens with your circumstances, with your body or finances, or who knows
Exactly.
what can happen in the world,
Hmm.
that you need to be able to create a shift. But by being open and being flexible, then you're going to be
Hmm.
able to make a decision that empowers you in your
Yeah.
recovery. So I think that's
And with the
cool.
right intentions. I've kind of had this
Yeah.
feeling my entire life that like I don't want to be really dependent on anything like so much. It's been a strange feeling to really understand. And I guess that really that's the same thing with food. And I feel like maybe that's why an issue I had with food was this like huge dependency on it almost to like cheer me up or comfort
Hmm.
me or do this or do that. And I got very like, attached to that and it meant so much to me. And it was to my own detriment really because it sent me down the wrong way and it sent me down like food addictions and stuff and my life's like revolving around it. So I feel like carnivore is just it allowed me to just relax around food and like because it gives your body exactly what it needs and kind of nothing more. And maybe that's the place to be. Maybe that's the place I need to be. And we'll find out though. It's hard to know.
Thanks so much for sharing. So now that you have released some of that obsession that you had with food, like it
Hmm.
sounds like your life was just so much about food and just like
Mm.
the
Also,
constant
because I was
hunger.
hungry all the time. I
Yeah,
was
of
just so
course.
hungry. Like, of course you're gonna think about food.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're in that space, there's like, as you were mentioning, it's like thinking about your next meal or what are you going to eat, and then, or how are you going to get, and then what are you going to do afterwards, or whatever. Like all this constant,
Hmm.
that just takes up so
Like
much brain
chatter,
space.
yeah.
Yeah, the chatter. Now that that's relaxed and you have more space in your life and you're eating less times a day, what has been possible for you? Like, have you explored new hobbies? Like, what have you been filling with your time with, if you have, or are you just enjoying more space?
Well, I'd say it without that, I wouldn't have been able to focus on my Instagram and start sharing about it. And it's strange because like I guess like I was thinking about food all the time and now I'm talking about food all the time. So it's kind of like, but it's just I can see the mind
It's
the shift in the mindset. It's there because it's not really about me anymore. It's not like the
it's
intention. I
not,
always talk about intention. Like the
yeah.
intention is just different. So I guess it's kind of, like I'm not thinking about food all the time, but now I'm suddenly thinking about food all the time because I'm
It's
talking
like
about it.
before you were like struggling and now you're like helping others.
Yeah, it's just so I've been able to do that, and it's been a really cool experience. I've had people reaching out to me and like sharing their eating disorder past and just asking questions and being curious, and I'm able to just tell them like, look, this is what happened to me. I can never tell you what's going to happen to you, but here's my story. Try it, eat a lot of meat, and find out. It's simple. It's so simple. That's why I think it's so amazing because these people are lost, like they're so lost and confused, and that was me, and I can see like my past self in it, and I can really like I really feel for them, and I just want to here's what happened for me. It's working so far. Let me know, like stay in touch. Like I love it when these people reach out and show curiosity. And
That's
obviously
really,
I'm still working full time as a nurse, so
yeah.
a lot of my spare time is spent lying down relaxing.
Recovering for the next shift.
Yeah, oh, recovering.
Okay, my last question for you is about the coffee because I am in the same
Mm.
place. I've been a hardcore coffee addict and like insane. And I literally just quit coffee myself. And it's
Oh,
like,
nice.
it was a long time coming because I was just so miserable like that, that addict state where well, I'm not sure how bad it was for you, but like I was so bad that like you just like pounding it and like it doesn't do anything for you, but you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just
Mm-hmm.
like that dread. I was like, I know I need to stop, but I was like, I just know I'm just going to be dead like when I stop it because I was just drinking so much and my tolerance was like so high. It was like
Mm-hmm.
so, but I knew that I wanted to stop because it just wasn't healthy for me mentally or physically to just be consuming so much coffee
Mm-hmm.
for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've passed the hump and I'm super happy to say that I am not drinking coffee. I didn't drink coffee today. I'm alive.
How long have you not drank coffee for?
It's been, gosh, maybe 5 days or so.
Oh, wow. So it's
Yeah.
hard at the start. It's so
Yeah.
hard at the start.
I was so ready though. I was so freaking ready. I was so ready. I had been dragging for so long, even despite drinking so much caffeine. So I was like, so
Hmm.
ready. But yeah, I'm feeling good. And
Awesome.
I would love to hear your journey with quitting coffee.
Yeah. Well, the thing, so I actually had coffee today for the first time in 34 days, I think it was. I went without coffee.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess my quitting coffee, I was an addict. Oh my goodness, I was an addict. I loved coffee, and I knew it too, and I was fine with it. I still am fine with it, really. I love coffee. I'm a nurse. I need coffee. I couldn't like part of like what was holding me on to coffee was just thinking about going to work and doing night
Right.
shifts and not having that because
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard. It's a long day and it's just nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, it's nice, but it's not nice.
I feel that.
I realized like my quitting coffee experience came kind of when I started Carnivore, but I didn't really realize at the time. Obviously, like Carnivore talks about it has the understanding that all plants are toxic to some sort of degree because of um animals they're the way they can defend themselves is they run away, they can, or they can fight back physically, but plants can't do that, so they have to defend themselves chemically. They're rooted to the ground, they're not getting up and running away. So to defend themselves, to be able to evolve and stay alive and spread their genes like any other living thing on this planet, they have to produce toxic defense chemicals to harm whatever's going to eat them, to make them not eat them. And we know this. We can't go out and eat any bush or leaf or whatever berry that we see on a tree because it could be killing us. We don't know. But for vegetables and fruits and anything else from a plant that we involve in our diet, we haven't really understood that same concept. And all of these vegetables and beans, legumes, pulses, fruits, to some degree, are going to be toxic to you. Obviously, they're not going to kill you straight away, but they can build up over time. And if you eat them all the time, just a couple of examples of these defense chemicals are like oxalates or lectins. They can be very bad for a lot of people. They can break up your gut. They can cause inflammation. I would encourage people to, I won't go too much into them, but if that's something you're interested in, research about them. It's very interesting. So there's obviously this plant toxin understanding in carnivore, and coffee is a plant, it's a bean, and the bean or the seed is actually one of the most chemically defended part of any plant because that's where it's going to spread its genes. So that needs to be protected. So they can actually be very bad for you. And coffee's always coming up with like, coffee's still a plant. It's still going to have defense
Hmm.
chemicals. It's still going to. So that was kind of put in my mind. And I understood that. So I cut down coffee when I went carnivore as much as I could. I ended up going to one a day. And I moved that one from before my, usually I would wake up, empty stomach, straight to the coffee,
Right. Yeah.
appetite suppressed, no problem. That was like
Yeah.
that was my thing.
Right.
But that was very not good for me. It took a while for me to come to terms with that one. It's interesting how things slowly kind of reveal themselves to you, like what's actually not good for you and these habits that you've had and sat with for so long, and then have to
Yeah.
kind of come to terms and just see the truth of why you really do it.
Yeah.
That one took a while. I didn't want to, but you always know it, but you don't want to admit it to yourself. I
Mm.
didn't want to see that one, but I got forced to see it. So I moved it to after my meal, and that made a massive difference. Waking up and just, thinking about food and not coffee to start yourself
Mhm.
and fuel your
Mm.
day. And I did that for a few months, and
Mhm.
that was one of the best things you could do to quit coffee. I don't know if maybe you did that. If you woke up and had a coffee straight away,
Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Mhm.
So moving it to the meal after for a few months, like I sat in all of these different phases for quite a few months before stopping. So and
Mhm.
then I finally just decided, I made a post on my Instagram about that. Oh, I do drink coffee and that's fine, but one day I'd like to maybe know what it's like to not drink coffee, because for all I know I could feel so good, and it's true, like, I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And then making that post and speaking to some other carnivores saying, oh, like, you should quit coffee, like try it out, do it for 30 days. It just kind of motivated me and thought, why not? I just do it. And I did it. And I found it surprisingly easy. I mean, it wasn't always easy, but it wasn't as hard as I was expecting. And it's because I set myself up without even realizing it. I set myself up really well to quit
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
but I have come back to it.
No shame
But the
there.
social aspect, I think the social benefits of coffee, it outweighs it for me.
I mean, coffee is amazing. I love coffee. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that I will never drink coffee again because I have that kind of tormented relationship with the love-hate, you know? So
Hmm.
maybe I will drink coffee again, like, but I hope to at least abstain for like 3 to 6 months just
Oh wow, yeah.
to give my brain
Yeah.
a chance to
Let
quote unquote
yourself adjust
reset.
to it.
Yeah. And then maybe one day I probably will get
Hmm.
back to it just because I'm like such a fiend. But
Hmm. Try after a meal. That really changed it for me.
yeah, I
And
did. Yeah,
that coffee jitters, it was like that doesn't happen when it's after a meal.
I actually love the coffee jitters. I love that crackhead feeling.
Slightly
But like,
addictive, isn't
oh, I
it?
love it. But like I did in preparation for quitting coffee, I did move my coffee from very first thing because that was always my first thought, like waking up
Hmm.
like straight to the caffeine. Then I tried to shift it like later on in the day. And then I was able to quit. But you know, there's nothing like coffee, but then it's kind of
Yep.
like it what happens for me. I don't know if it's for you. It's like, yeah, there's nothing like coffee, but then you drink it and it's wonderful for a short time. And then it's like one coffee becomes two, becomes a million, and then you get to
Hmm.
the point where you drink so much and then it doesn't do anything. And it's like it's
Just
just
an addiction.
it's a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, it's an addiction.
Hmm.
It's a real addiction. It's a problem. So anyway, that's how it's been for me, and that maybe is how it will be and until I wisen up. But for right now, I'm just happy that I'm not drinking it
I mean,
today.
5 days in, if it's that bad for you, I mean, that's amazing.
Oh yeah, no,
I
I'm
feel
feeling great.
you.
I'm definitely going to, I feel like, yeah, I'm feeling totally good and totally committed for
Have
to
you found it changed your appetite? Because when I quit coffee, my appetite was like, oh my God, this is what I talk about. I had to go through this priming experience because my appetite
hmm
was, I couldn't reach the bottom of it. And I was nearly a year into carnivore. I was shocked. I was really shocked to learn that I was still hungrier than I thought. I still, I think my hormones were still not where they could be. Did that happen to you?
That has, so this time around, it hasn't happened, but that certainly has happened to me in the past where times when I've quit caffeine, I've noticed that like I was like, wow, like I mean, it really is a hunger suppressant because I like you, I
Yeah.
would have it first thing in the morning and then I wouldn't eat for several hours because I was like, I'm really not hungry. And then I
Hmm.
would quit the caffeine and then it's like, pretty early in the morning, I'm like, I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's very,
So,
it's, yeah,
mhm.
it makes you realize the impact of caffeine, but you just are so oblivious to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's
I would definitely recommend like people if they're definitely if they've had like restrictive eating in the past of that or of like an abuse of coffee. I definitely abused coffee to try and experience life without it, even just a month, because it could you could open up your appetite in a really great way. And then if you open up that appetite and just fill it with nutrient dense food, like wow, it's very healing.
I think that's just a really unique perspective that you have, Lucy, of like, hey, let's get clarity on our hunger and fullness cues
Yeah, I think
and
that's the
let's
key. That's the
nourish
key.
ourselves with really nourishing food and
Hmm.
eat zero of the stuff that is harming us, and then let's see what happens.
I feel like my opinion on it is different. You'll get a lot of people that say, you need to eat everything in moderation. You need to be able to eat sugar. That's recovery. That's normal eating. In my opinion, it's not normal. It's not normal to eat cakes. Like, yeah, we think it's normal and it's very accepted, but really it's not normal. To the human body, a cake is very foreign. And it's clearly not normal because look at look at where it left me in a very abnormal situation. And like that's something I kind of think when I think about eating disorders is how are we saying what recovery looks like when we don't actually know what normal eating looks like? As a species, humans, for the majority of our evolution, ate a lot of meat, like very meat heavy diets, and we're now eating a lot of plants, more plants than we've ever consumed. And the health is declining. There's something going on. The rate of eating disorders is increasing. And why is that? Is it because what we're looking at as normal is not actually normal? And I think a lot of people, with eating disorder problems, they come to that same like, but should I be eating sugar? Do I have to know how to eat Doritos in moderation to be recovered? And
Hmm.
I would like to say, no, you don't. You don't have to eat those things. You can absolutely avoid them and choose to not eat them and recover. And it may
Absolutely.
be in like in a really great way as well. So
I'm
it's
100% aligned, and that's why when I was I obviously came across your Instagram, which is how you're on the podcast today, but when I was coming across some of your messages, those very much align with my messages and what I'm
mhm.
trying to share on the podcast, which is what can be an unconventional voice. And that's why
Yeah.
I want to share it, because in traditional eating disorder recovery, it is very much that to recover, you do need to eat all foods in
Hmm.
moderation. And I've
And
been
I
in
told
groups
myself that too.
before.
Like I went through that phase and I thought that's what I needed to, but it never happened for
It
me.
didn't work for me either. And I've been under working with tons of professionals. Like I've been
Hmm.
residential and everything. And
Wow, yeah.
like that just didn't work for me. But it was only
Hmm.
coming to more of an addiction type of framework, which acknowledges that, maybe we don't consume the substance that is
Hmm.
doing us harm. And we embrace that, not as,
Hmm.
and
Exactly.
not try to fight against it because society says that moderation is what we should do. And
Yeah,
it was only coming to that I have experienced a huge transformation. And
me
so
too.
I'm totally in line with what you share. And I think it's an important voice that it's an important, you have a good voice and a message that needs to be broadcasted.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had some of these people that have been speaking to me about their eating disorders, and they're going through like traditional recovery. They've been inpatients in facilities. And I asked
Hmm.
them what did they feed you there? I was interested. And she was saying, it would be toast and cereal and then pastas and then a cake for dessert. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like they're getting treated for an eating disorder with, in my opinion, an eating disorder, an abnormal habit of eating. It's not normal to eat huge amounts of carbohydrate. It's not normal for the body. It's normal to us because that's all we know, but I don't
Hmm.
think it's normal. And I think, when I think about another reason why this is happening to people, why did it happen to me, is because
Hmm.
our diet is so far away from what is normal for the body that
Hmm.
it's going to be confused and it's going to lead to problems.
Are you talking about like the conflation that some people think having, a preference for, eating, for example, a carnivore diet, they think that that is overly restrictive?
Yeah, and like I suppose it's kind of stemming from this is going into like the food pyramid, I suppose, and like traditional dietary beliefs that carbohydrates are essential and that fruits and vegetables are essential and that you need to eat fiber, else,
Okay.
your stomach's going to explode or something. You're coming against some like very, very deeply believed, um, not true truths about what a
Hmm.
healthy diet is. And I guess what I'm
Hmm.
saying is like, what if our goal for recovery isn't even recovery? Like, I don't know. What
Hmm.
if we're like aiming on the wrong thing maybe, and that's why so many people are struggling and relapsing and not finding relief because they're aiming in the wrong place. Some people describe the carnivore diet as the proper human diet. It's the diet that humans evolved from. It's what we were designed to eat. We were designed to eat highly nutritious foods. Um, it's what the body knows. And now we're finding ourselves in a world where the majority of our foods are, pastas and breads and carbohydrates and vegetables. And none of those things are essential to the body because I've not eaten them in a long time. I'm still here.
Hmm.
There's
Right.
carnivores that have been carnivores for 8 years, 17 years, 6 years, 5 years, and they're still alive and thriving. I would encourage
Mhm.
everyone to go look at Sean Baker, Dr. Sean Baker. He's an 8 year carnivore, and if you look at him, he does not look unwell. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Dr.
He's
Lisa Wiedemann is a carnivore. She's been doing that for like 15 years.
Yes, she looks fantastic.
Hmm.
So we're aiming. I think what I'm getting at is there's a big misunderstanding of what proper nutrition actually is. And if you're trying to go through an eating disorder recovery, learning about that and learning what your body really needs and the essential nutrients can really guide you on where you should go. If you're lost, if you don't know what to do, you don't know what to eat, then just go back to the basics. What does the human body need? The human body needs fat and it needs protein, and just stick to that for a bit and see what happens. And just make it more simple. Like, keeping it simple is the best, especially after, you know, if you've had a history of eating problems, it's exhausting. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have any more brain power.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to make any more decisions. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, like, oh, just, give me what I need and then let me move on.
Yeah.
And like carnivore does that. It really does that.
Well, thank you so much. It's been just wonderful hearing your personal story, and I'm just really grateful to know that this is working for you and that you've really found your own way. And thank you for sharing your story with all
Of
of us.
course. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to talk about it because I really do think it could help a lot of people.
Absolutely. If people want to find you, what's the best way?
So I'm on Instagram at the moment. It's under that carnivore nurse. I'm hoping to start a YouTube soon. So it'll be the same name. And I will be, just to plug myself, I will be starting a carnivore coaching soon. So if anyone is interested in working with me one-on-one, just to help explore carnivore, see what it could do for you, not medical advice, just solely about working, learning about carnivore diet, giving you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
support, sharing
Mm-hmm.
my story, listening to
Mm-hmm.
yours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start coaching, so I'll be advertising that on my Instagram. And yeah, so if that's something that you would be interested in, just keep an eye out for that.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing all that. We'll be sure to link the Instagram handle in the episode description. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you so much. Lovely speaking.